Hi, welcome to In Conversation. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. I want to wish you a happy new year. Can you believe it's 2015 already? Sitting right here next to me is my guest co-host, Miss Gail Lewis. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Mark
Welcome.
Anthony.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Mwah. One more, because we're Latin.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy 2015.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. New Year's resolutions?
Keeping it simple.
Uh-huh.
Keeping it simple.
Okay, so everything in your life, just kind of simplifying your life.
Stress-free, trying to be stress-free.
Okay.
But you know, for the most part, when it comes to New Year's we have New Year's resolutions.
Right.
Right. Some people finances, some people weight, some people they want to do new things, but we never quite get around to it because we just I think we make false.
Yeah. A lot of us seem like we're really gung-ho in January, and then the gym is pretty empty in February.
Right.
And a lot of us, I think, like you alluded to, make the New Year's resolution to lose weight.
Yes.
And I know that you have in the past as well. And our guest today here on In Conversation with Mark Anthony is someone who has taken it a step further. She is not just about losing weight, which I think is what most of us think, oh, I just got to lose 20 pounds this year. But I think she's someone that we can really learn a lot because she just takes it to the next level.
Right. She's had difficulties in her life.
Yeah, she's had weight challenges like a lot of us have, but she's also learned how to just live a healthier lifestyle.
Right. And she wrote a new book. She's none other than Margaret Thompson Marshall.
Margaret Marshall, and her book, Body, Mind, Mouth. And I think that really sums it up.
The Food Connection.
Yeah. It's not just about losing those 20 pounds.
Right.
It's about a lifestyle change.
She talked in the book about what you think is how you feel, is how you act on your feelings.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's go ahead and introduce her.
With no further ado, we would like to introduce to you Margaret. Hi, Margaret.
Hey, Mark Anthony.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Give me a pound from there. Hi, Margaret.
Margaret, your book.
You wrap one of those.
I read your book, and I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Really?
It was very intimate, and like I said on my Facebook page, it's an insightful little pocket treasure. I couldn't put it down.
Really?
Seriously.
Thank you.
I like the way you were very intimate with your details about when you were growing up, when we were in our younger years. She said that she has 4 brothers, and because of her overweight, they used to call you Margaret.
The big fat target.
Right.
Oh,
yes,
gosh.
that was my nickname. You know, many children have these horrible names, and you have to wonder how many years do you live that name?
Right.
You know, well, I lived it till I was 30, I believed it.
Wow.
So it was until I changed my thinking on that I realized I didn't have to be Margaret the big fat target through my whole life.
You were overweight as a child. You've always had food issues.
I was always very chunky.
In the book, she said that she was. They named her big boned.
Well, I was always told I'm big boned. I am big boned.
Okay.
You know, I'm a big person.
And your dad
I'm not
said when
petite.
you were getting your daughter Megan in the hospital room that we have to fight the bulge.
Well, my dad always said to me, my dad was heavy, and he always said to me, Margaret, we'll fight the battle of the bulge together.
Right.
Now, he was trying to be very supportive.
Yeah,
but
I think most parents are trying to be supportive.
He was trying to be very supportive, and was, I guess. But in my mind, I said, because he was heavy, I'm going to be heavy the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That was the message I got. That was the
What a
message
burden
I
to
got.
carry.
I think I just accepted it.
Yeah.
And I did lots of crazy things, especially through my teens.
Diets, tell
think
us.
back.
What kind of diets?
You know, starvation for days. I can remember one time having a virus and throwing up from the virus and thinking, I lost weight doing this.
I just lost 5 pounds.
Yeah, but thankfully I didn't go further with that. But you get these crazy thoughts in your mind.
Right.
What'd you do? You starved? You
Starved, cabbage food
Shakes.
diet, shakes, overeat, and then don't eat.
Well, with me, I share some of the things. I'm not sure about yourself, but with me, I was so skinny as a toothpick that I used to eat ice cream. Lots and lots of ice cream.
Right.
And just go to bed, because that's what I heard. Eat ice cream and go to bed. Or eat rice, carbs.
Yeah.
And just go to bed.
Think how unhealthy that is.
Yeah.
In my book, I say my mother, when I was a young girl, my mother would tell me stories of when she was a schoolgirl, and she went to Catholic school, and at that time you went home for lunch in those years. The nuns would send her home to eat milkshakes and French fries to gain weight.
Wow.
And I used to think, how come she can do that and I keep getting told I can't eat these things?
Was your
or I
mom
shouldn't eat
just
these
naturally thin her whole life?
things? She probably wouldn't agree with you, but as a young person, before I knew her, before I came into the world, she was very thin. Yes,
Yeah.
she was very thin.
And your dad always just had a little bit of bulk.
My dad was heavier.
So how did you manage, like, throughout your younger years until your teens? You said until about 30, that's when you had it under control.
Right.
So how did you manage throughout, you know, what did you do? What did you have any techniques that you tried to?
No techniques.
Yeah.
Whatever the latest on the market was.
Yeah.
No techniques. I can remember after my daughter was born, and I was 26 then, and she was born in the winter, and I would just put her in the stroller, not eat all day, but walk all day.
Wow.
And and I got very thin after she was born, but it wasn't really the healthy way to
you
do it.
mentioned that but at 30 you got to size
By the time
10.
I was age 30, after both my children were born, I was a size 16.
Wow.
And I said, wow, I'm
And
30 years
what
old.
were you eating at that point? You've got two young kids.
She said she liked ding-dongs.
Oh, I love it. No.
Ring dings, right.
Yeah, ring
Ate a lot of ring
dings,
dings,
yeah.
Entenmann's cakes. I can remember making dinner at night for my family and saying, wow, I haven't eaten all day, but there was an empty cake box in the garbage.
Yeah, where'd that go?
Yes, yeah.
So at
But
30,
that's past.
at 30 you had that aha moment, and you talk about it in the book. What changed? What was the catalyst for you becoming healthy when you were 30?
I wish I knew. I really wish I had an answer for you. I just didn't want to live my life like that. You know, I was 30 years old. I tell a story in the book of how my daughter was 2 or 3, and I went to a bridal shower with my
with your
mom, who was, I don't know, if I was 30, she was in her 50s, and my daughter, who was 2 or 3, and everyone told my daughter Megan how cute she is, and everyone told my mom how beautiful she looked,
Yeah.
and nobody said a word to me.
Oh.
And you mentioned in the book, she mentions that it was that silent treatment of Margaret, you're frumpy,
Yeah.
you're fat. You
Yeah.
better
The
do something about
silence
it.
to me
Was
screamed,
deafening.
you are frumpy, do something.
You were
Yeah.
feeling frumpy at that point too. So what'd you do? You're 30, you realize I'm feeling frumpy, you've got 2 little kids. You don't, you know, you want to make it past 50. What'd you do?
Well, at that time, I went to the local Weight Watchers Center. Went to Weight Watchers, and I
And
went.
this was in the 1980s,
This
so
was in
Weight Watchers was big?
1986. Yeah, 1986.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, and I went
new
from a
fad.
size 16. You know, I really embraced it. And I went from a size 16 to a size 10 in about a year and a half.
That is huge.
Fantastic,
Yeah,
congratulations.
and I've been in a 10. I'm 58 now. That was
Yeah.
when I was 30.
You are?
I'm 58.
How is
No,
that
you're not.
possible?
Can't you tell? Come
No.
on.
No, you're not, Margaret. Are you serious? Show us your
Yeah.
license.
I'm gonna have to card this
I
woman.
have every wrinkle to show you. But I've been in a size 10 since I'm 30. So that's really my story.
Yeah.
You know, that we can do that. We don't have to do the up and down and the
Right.
yo-yo. And it's not about what's the latest diet craze. It's about how am I going to take care of myself.
Right.
And that's what it becomes about. And so when I thought about the title for the book, I said, how do I sum this work up in 3 words? And it came to body, mind, and mouth. And it's the connection between
Right.
the mind and the mouth and how it shows in the
Right.
body. And what your life is like when that's connected and what your life is like when it's disconnected.
Right.
How do we get them connected?
You know, it's a process. It's a process. It's a learning curve. And I think everything is practice. Very often I'll work with a client and they'll say, you know, Margaret, I went to a party and I overate.
The holidays
Well, the
have just
holidays
passed.
that we
yeah.
just passed, and I overate. It's just practice for the next holiday.
And I love the cover. It's very simple, you know, fruits and...
All the things we should be eating.
Right. And
Yeah.
yet the book is not really about food, is it?
No.
It's about changing your thinking, your thought pattern, about how you feel about yourself.
Your body, your
you know,
mind,
when
and
you're-
your mouth.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're depressed or when you're feeling, you know, something happened traumatically, you just go home and
You just open the fridge.
yeah, and you become a couch potato and sit down and watch TV. And Margaret decided that after many years at at the
Weight Watchers?
former,
Yes.
being a coach at the former
Yes.
former coach for Weight Watchers. She decided that she was tired of the commercial diets and stuff, and she wanted to go into her own practice and open her own
Healthy living.
healthy living
coaching
style.
method.
So she became
Yeah.
a coach, and she opened the Why Diet Method
The
coaching.
why
with-
weight coaching. Why
Yeah.
weight coaching
Why
method.
weight coaching,
Yes.
sorry.
So after
Yes.
17 years with Weight
I was
Watchers.
a speaker for Weight Watchers for 17 years, and you know I was raising my family at
yeah,
the time.
so that
and
was perfect for
it
when
was
you're raising your
perfect
family.
while I was raising my
Absolutely.
family. But it, you know, I'm not going to say anything good or bad. It worked for me years and years ago, but
Yeah.
it's a great start. Let me say
Yeah.
that. But you have to step away from what people tell you to do and diet
Yeah, become
products.
robotic.
Yeah, and you have to start to say what works for me. So I did that many years before I resigned from Weight Watchers, and I learned what worked for me aside from.
What was the driving force for you opening your own practice and your own becoming your own coach?
I wanted at that time, this was in 2004, I wanted to work more individually with people.
Okay.
And I wanted to really understand what it takes to change who you are.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and you can't do that in front of a room
Right.
with 50, 100 people in front of you. You know, so that was my original thought. I'm going to work individually, and I worked with small groups, and I did a lot of corporate programs, or I worked with just individuals, and I still do. I still do work with many individuals.
Yeah, you wrote about some of them in the book,
Yeah.
and there are times I had to put the book down because it got very personal.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like you spoke about. I was going to ask you, did you get permission from them to to use the stories?
You know what was funny? As I was, I had read somewhere, write as if nobody's alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought that was great advice. I did not use any names. I think I only used
no
one name in there
identifiers. Yeah.
because I didn't know the man I was writing about. I only
Right.
met him once. And I didn't know how it would go over with my clients or my former clients, but I got so many phone calls from people. I'm on page 32 and I love it. And I didn't know if they'd recognize themselves, but
Yeah.
boy,
They
they
did.
did.
Yeah.
And reading about themselves in the book, they have told me how much it has helped them. Now, I didn't use any names.
Right.
Right. But just the story. I mean, they can identify who they are from the stories.
I think, yeah, from our conversation that we had personally,
Yeah.
and then it was in the book.
And I like she mentioned in the book that there was a client who said that he dropped his food and he picked it up and ate it
wow.
off the floor, and her immediate response was like an animal, like a dog,
Yeah. Like.
and she realized and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that," and then he went like,
Yeah. Like a
"Yeah,
dog.
like an animal, like a
Yeah.
dog."
He said, yes, like a
Yeah.
dog. Don't be
Yeah.
sorry. I needed that.
Right.
Yeah. it kinda-
Because
it's
my
one of those
initial response
aha.
when he was telling me, I dropped this food on the floor and I picked it up from the floor and just ate it. And I went, like a dog?
Yeah.
And he said, ah. And then I said, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. And he said, you didn't offend me. You're right.
That's what
like
I-
a dog.
Yeah, that's what I like about your book. It's so personal, it's so down to earth, and it tells stories of that we can all relate to. The other story was about the lady with her overweight husband who they didn't have sexual relations for 10 years.
I started working with this man who was very overweight, and they were both grandparents. They had these little grandchildren, and I was working with him. And some people are really on board, and some
Yeah.
people it takes a while for them to get
Yeah.
on board. So it was taking him a while to get on board. And his wife called me one day, and she said, "Margaret, you really have to help us because of his weight. We haven't had a sexual relationship in 10 years.
Wow.
And I can't live like this."
And they were
anymore."
still in their prime.
They were still
yeah.
in their prime. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other one with the donut, buying the 12 donuts.
Well, that was my husband.
Yeah, Chris, her husband, bought a 12
Chris is in
donuts.
the studio today.
Hi, Chris.
Hi,
He
Chris.
bought a
He would buy.
12
donuts.
Yeah,
dozen
he'd stop
donuts.
at a donut place on the
Chain,
way
uh-huh.
home. That was at the train station. He'd take the train home, and I guess he was hungry, and he'd stop in, and he'd buy a dozen donuts to bring home, and he would have one at night watching television, and each one of my children would have one at night, and who was stuck with
The
the
other
rest of the
8.
donuts the
Yeah.
next day?
But I like what she did.
In the house with you all
In
day
the
long.
house.
But I like what she did. She took the donuts and she dumped it in the garbage.
It's great.
Yeah.
Great
Well, it
willpower.
was one way or the other. Most of those donuts were not going to be there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was the best way
Right.
I saw to do that.
So what prompted you to write the book?
You know, Gail had asked me who Judith Lee Halleck is, and she wrote the foreword for my book. And she's a client of mine, and she is a published author of 3 books herself, and she would say to me, you have so much information and so much in you, you need to get it on paper.
Yeah, you're a wealth.
And thank you, Mark Anthony.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, just the stories alone. Yeah.
Thank you. And so she said, you write, I'll read.
Okay.
And she was really my inspiration behind that because, you know, I thought writing a book was for other people.
Thank you, Judy.
Right.
We appreciate it. So, what was the process of writing the book? Because it's very straightforward.
It is. I had a, quite honestly, I had a seminar. I was doing a 3-day seminar.
Right.
And this is when Judy was saying to me, you need to write, you need to get this out, people need to read this. So I did an outline for my seminar that I was doing, and she said, here's your book.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
She said, this is your outline.
Absolutely.
Now just add to it.
You know, I like certain parts. For example, I was trying to
like the points to remember,
sticky
or
noted. But there's so many things
Did you want this one?
take a whole. No, it's on page. You can take a look too. It's on page. It says, in order to succeed at living a thin, healthy life, you need to make the way you eat who you are and not what you do. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it really is, because if you're going to a diet program or you're doing whatever's in the magazine or anything like that, it's what you're doing. And it's short-lived.
Right.
And people wonder, why do I lose 5 pounds and gain 10? Why do I lose 20 pounds and gain 25? Because it's short-lived. It's what you're doing. But you have to start there.
Right.
And then let it become who you are. And once it's who you are, then it's permanent.
And I like the way you said, I'm trying to remember exactly. She said, find in your New York accent and look in the mirror and say to yourself,
You talking to
you're
me?
talking to me? And say that to yourself as a mantra.
Right.
And, you know, when you're having negative thoughts and it's leading you to that spiral of eating, you know, whatever, just say, are you talking to me?
What does that do? Does that bring you back to reality?
Well, you know what? We're so cruel to ourselves.
The way we talk to ourselves, we would never talk to anyone else.
No, nobody would talk to you if you spoke to other people, the things we say to ourselves. So we have to become aware of what our self-talk is, because very often our self-talk leads us down, our inner dialogue leads us down the road we don't want to be down. And then we wonder why we're there. So I always say, put on your strongest New York accent, look in the mirror and say, you talking to me?
Right.
You talking to me? I deserve that?
And for folks who might not recognize that, who you're talking to me, that was from Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver, playing Travis Brick. I remember that from the book. Thank you.
Talk to me really quickly about the 5-finger method, and I don't mean shoplifting.
Sure. Well, I have this book, Body, Mind, and Mouth. This was my book, and then I have an e-book that I wrote and published. It was published this year, as a matter of fact, and it's the 5-Finger Food Guide.
5-finger
food guide.
And it's an e-book, so we can download it.
It's an e-book. You have to download
and take it with you anywhere.
You can take it with you anywhere. And it's the way I teach people how to eat, how to balance out their food. I never tell people what they can and can't eat, because I think that's a very intimate decision. Eating is very intimate. You put it into your body. It's very intimate. So why would you want someone saying, can't eat that?
Put that donut down.
When you say you can't eat it, it makes you want to eat it.
Absolutely. But I want to educate people on the right way to eat and how they can choose the food that works the best for them. So I did that with my 5-Finger Food Guide, and that's an e-book, and you can find that anywhere e-books are sold.
Margaret, where can people find you if they're interested in more details?
They can just go to my website, which would be the easiest way, and that's margaretmarshallassociates.com.
And tell us about the 5 fingers.
The 5 fingers, it's just, this is your food guide. And each finger is a different length, and each finger represents a food group.
Right.
So depending on the length of your finger tells you how you need to balance. So your longest finger is your fruits and vegetables.
Right.
Your next longest finger, which is different for everybody, is your protein. The next one is carbohydrates.
Right.
Then we have fats. And then down here we have specials.
And those are
specials
wine?
could be wine. Specials are food or drink that have no nutritional value.
Right.
You enjoy them, but you have to see, these are your staples, this is your specials. And when you can eat like this and choose the food that you like.
Yeah, you said be careful of the wine, the alcohol. It has high content of sugar, so just you can do them, but minimally.
And so, Margaret, what's next for you?
What's next for me? There's so many things that I have on the burn. I blog for the Huffington Post, which I just love that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of television for Verizon Fios television.
Yes.
That's huge too.
That's really big. And I would like my own show. I have a sizzle reel that I'd love to show to producers.
Oh,
and I have a
fantastic.
treatment all ready to go.
Oh, great.
With an idea that I would love to show for producers and get my own show about eating.
That would be fantastic.
About health and wellness.
Health and
don't
wellness
forget-
through eating.
Yeah.
Don't forget to come back here, please, anytime.
I know. When you have your own show, have us on, okay?
Thank you.
Margaret, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. Okay, we have some more time, so we'll continue. Did you have any thoughts about?
Well, Margaret, just everything you're doing and what you want to do with your own show, that is tremendous.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you want to have your own show, you want to go ahead with all of that, you want to be on network television.
Well, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Yes.
It would. We need more information concerning, healthy eating.
Yeah.
And not just the Food Network that we're seeing how to prepare these succulent dishes.
I like to be a realist. Because, when it comes to eating healthy, it has to be, like I said, who you are and not what you're doing.
Right.
But you have to be real with your lifestyle.
Right.
And your lifestyle changes as the years go on, and we've all experienced that.
Right.
Right? So your eating will change as well.
Well, you said in the book there's 5,000 thoughts per day.
I think it was 50,000.
50,000?
50,000 thoughts per day, and most of them are negative.
And please define for our client, our audience, the way that you describe diet, the acronym.
Oh, the acronym for diet? Well, most people think diet means deprivation, and it doesn't. It just means the way you eat. So my acronym for diet is D, decide, and then I have in parentheses, how, I'll, E, eat, T, today. Decide how I'll eat today.
Perfect.
And that's what diet means. And I always say, we're in the 21st century with the I, everything, the iPad, the iPod. Put an I in front of it, the I diet.
Yeah.
I decide how I'll eat today.
I love it.
And
Thank
the
you,
more
Margaret.
educated you are, the better it is
Thank
for
you so much.
Thanks,
for coming.
Margaret
Thank you.
Marshall.
Thank you,
Everybody,
Gail.
her book, Body, Mind, Mouth. Make sure you get it. And of course, look her up on her website. Thanks so much, Margaret Marshall,
Thank
for joining
you.
us on In Conversation.
I like, before we go, there's one closing that I would like. She said that there's 365 days a year to make excuses, or there's 365 opportunities a year to take control.
Take control, ladies and gentlemen.
We would like to thank you for joining us in conversation. I'm your host, Mark Anthony, with my co-host, Gail Lewis. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.